Welcome back, guys, to another Thursday, the beautiful Thursday. We're always here to help and give back. So we're always here to give back info to people who are struggling, let's say, with business, finances, credit, real estate. We're just here to help and give back. So let me get the show started here. Welcome back to another episode, Invest in Your Future. I'm your host, Kenny, Coach Kenny, CEO of Corenda Group Corporation. I want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode. Thank you for Facebook. Thank you for Instagram. Thank you guys on YouTube or the podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen to this. Thank you guys. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the likes, the subscriptions. Keep that coming. We always appreciate that. We always want to hear from our audience. We always want to hear what's going on. So if you have questions, always post it wherever you listen to this. Ask questions, especially financial questions. We are having the Financial Power Hour. It's going to be in about a week. It's December 12th at 7 p.m. If you need, we only have a limited amount of seats. So please, if you want to contact us, leave us your email or your phone number wherever you listen to this, and we'll get back to you and let you know if there's some spots available. We only have a limited amount of spots. I think we only have 15 spots left. So we want to make sure we get people in. And it's a free event. It's a small, kind of more intimate event for people to come ask financial questions, get their finances right, maybe start off the new year correctly, and help them improve themselves. So I just give this event out, hosted by my company, but it's a free event so people can come ask me questions on how to start a business, how to improve their credit, how to get into real estate game, how to just better themselves. And so we always want to give that information out. And if you have questions, like I said, and you want to join that event, it's going to be in Arlington, but give us your information and we'll send you the address, because we want to make sure it's a small amount of group of people that can come and just ask personal questions and improve themselves. So also, guys, if you have any suggestions in terms of ideas for shows, we always love suggestions for shows, because that means we are giving exactly the knowledge that people are looking for. So if you have suggestions, if you have certain guests you think you can be great on the show, let us know. Reach out to us, info@corendagroup.com. That's info@corendagroup.com. And there'll also be a link to wherever you listen to this, straight to where you can email us or leave us a comment. And also there will be a link to the Financial Power Hour link where you can sign up for yourself and get that knowledge if you need to. So guys, today's show is titled Master the Inner Dialogue. Master the Inner Dialogue. Now, there's a famous philosopher. He studied for years, and 20, 30 years, and he was studying the brain and how the brain works and thought and thinking. And through his whole work, his name's Rene Descartes. So he came out with a quote that I think is so true for everybody, and everyone should really kind of, understand it. And his saying is, some of you guys might know it, some of you guys don't. But his saying, his final thought in terms of all his research is, I think, therefore I am. So it was tough for him to figure out if he really existed. He was kind of going a little more psycho because he used to take some drugs and stuff, but he was a very smart guy. And his final, his research came down to, I think, therefore I am. So this comes down to mastering the inner dialogue. Now, the inner dialogue. Now, there's always a dialogue going inside your head, inside your ears. There's always a dialogue, always going on. You have to understand this. If you don't understand this, sit for a couple minutes and in a quiet room, and you'll hear your inner dialogue. Now, why is that there? Why is that inner dialogue there? It's really actually to help you configure things and have your brain kind of work. But it really, what it does is actually, it leads you to where you're going. That inner dialogue. That's why it's very important to master the inner dialogue. So if you're trying to start a business and your inner dialogue says you're going to fail, most likely you're not going to start that business. It's that simple. It's that simple. That's going to affect your life. That is that simple also. So mastering the inner dialogue is mastering almost your decision making. Mastering your inner dialogue also masters other things. It helps you master other things. And let me give you an example. So your mind, like I said, if you want to start a business and you think you're going to fail, that thought is going to be so overplayed in your mind because, like I said, this inner dialogue is always constantly going on, always going on. So you're going to constantly be thinking about failure, or thinking about the hurdles, or thinking about the difficulties. And so what's going to cause that is limited amount of actions or no actions at all. It's that simple. So if you are having an inner dialogue in your head of failure, and you're constantly running it over and over again, like a DVD or an audio, your actions are going to equal that also. Same thing with if you're going trying out for a sport. I have some guys I coach for basketball. Guys are just not confident. They don't think they belong there. And so their actions show that they don't belong there because they're nervous, they're hesitant, they're turning the ball over. It's the same thing with anything you're trying to do. Your inner dialogue makes or breaks your actions. It's that simple. It either helps you or hurts you. It's that simple. Your inner dialogue pushes you forward or pulls you back or keeps you in the same place. But actually, you never really stay in the same place. You're either going forward or going backwards. It's that simple. But your inner dialogue can make you either go forward or pretty much stay stationary or even go backwards. That's how important the mastering the inner dialogue is. So listen, mastering the inner dialogue starts with a couple steps. But first you have to understand, okay, if my mind leads to my actions, so that means my mind can lead me to reinforcement, can help me push me, can help me fight anxiety. So if you're anxious or if you're nervous, that's all in your mind, because no one can see it until you put the actions forward and it shows that you're nervous. It's that simple. I don't know you're nervous until you show it. But if you're just nervous in your head and your actions don't show that, that means you're starting to master that inner dialogue. So understanding that your inner dialogue can lead to negative thoughts, negativity, guess what's going to happen? More negativity. It can lead to negative, language. You're going to have negative language. It can lead to positive language. You're going to have more positive language. You're going to have, it's going to pretty much dictate what your mood is. Your inner thoughts can lead you to happiness, can lead you to sadness, can lead you to depression, can lead you to, anger. It's all first starts with the mind, though. It starts with the inner dialogue, that mastering that thought that comes in the mind. So a lot of people can't control this because it's instant. They don't have control of it. Think of it like a wild horse. A wild horse. Your mind's a wild horse. When you grew up, you had no idea you even had a mind. It's that simple. So until you first figure out, okay, all my thoughts start in my mind. You should learn that from infant, but people don't. So they just think that whatever's happening in their mind is what I have to act on, or have to, that's exactly what I'm doing. But if you first of all disassociate yourself from your mind and say, listen, this is something that I have and I can control. So if my mind can lead me to a positive attitude, that means every single day I could have a positive attitude. If my mind leads me to negative attitude, that means every day I can have a negative attitude. That's how much you can control it. So the first thing is understanding that the internal dialogue is always going on. It's always, for a kid, for an old 80-year-old person, a 45-year-old person, they have an inner dialogue. It's always on. The only time it's off is when you're sleeping. That's the only time it's off, because your body's resting and your mind's shut off. But understand this, your inner dialogue, that little voice in your head, is always on. It's always going on. It's always saying something. It's always saying something. That's one thing. First of all, you need to understand that. So, and if you're not aware of that, of your inner dialogue always being on, you can never control it. You can never control it. So you need to understand it's always on, and you have to be aware of it. Now, if you're not aware of it, you can't control it, or you won't control it. It's that simple. If you're not aware of it, if you think your actions are just affected by your environment, then that's what's going to happen every single time. If you you can't control something because your mind is saying, I can't control it. This is my actions. I got angry because someone cut me off. That's what I do. I get angry when I get someone cuts me off. That's what's going to happen constantly. It's going to lead you to a road of destruction. It's that simple. That's what happens to everybody. And if they can't control if they can't master their inner dialogue. So the first thing is, like I said, is understanding is there. Understanding is always on, and understanding you can control it. That's number one. The second most important part when it comes to mastering the inner dialogue is, in order to control it, you have to practice, practice, practice. Now, what are you practicing when you're trying to control or trying to master your inner dialogue? What you're practicing is understanding is there, but then understanding what it's thinking about. What is your inner dialogue thinking about? Is it thinking about the past, about bad stuff that happened to you in the past? Is it thinking about the present? Is it thinking about the future? That's what's first thing is understand, what is it saying? What is it talking about all the time? Is it talking about my past? Is it talking about my present, or is it talking about my future? What's my inner dialogue talking about every single day? That's what you need to first understand is there, and then understand, what is it talking about? Is it talking about my past, present, or my future? And then the second thing is it positive or is it negative? So if I'm thinking about my past, I'm thinking all about negative stuff, there's no way I could have time to think about positive stuff coming in the future. Because like I said, there's only one thought that's going on at a time. It's either I'm positive about now, or I'm positive about the past, or I'm positive about the future. Or I'm negative about the past, I'm negative about now, and I'm negative about the future. Now, if you are constantly thinking about the negative past, which you can't control, you won't have a positive future. If you're always constantly thinking about the negative that you have now, you won't have a positive future. Same thing with the future. If you're thinking about the negative stuff that's going to happen to you in the future, you can't have a positive future, because your actions, like I said, are going to lead you towards those things. So the best thing to do is first figure out, see what's your mind, your current dialogue saying. Is it talking about right now? Is it talking about the past? Is it talking about the future? And is it positive or is it that negative? It's that simple. Figure that out. Figure out what's going on for you, for yourself. Second thing is, you have to set time to let your inner dialogue just talk and just go. Because what you need to figure out is, when is your inner dialogue just wandering, like where you can't control it? Or is it, you need to figure out also when you're controlling it yourself. So you have to set some time, and this is the practice we're talking about. You have to set some time, let's say like 10, 15 minutes, and just let your inner dialogue go. Let your inner dialogue just, whatever it's thinking about, maybe write it down. Maybe just note it, see what's going on. See what's going on constantly over and over again for like 10, 15 minutes. And you'll see exactly where you are. And you'll notice when your mind is wandering, when your inner dialogue is just wandering, where you can't control it. So you need to let it do that, so you can see how that looks like when your inner dialogue is just wandering. Now, this is very important, because once you let it wander, you need to be able to pull it back and control it. That's the only way you know you're controlling something, is you let it. Same thing with a wild horse. First it's wild, and then they tame it in a small, place, and then finally you can ride it because it's tamed. Because now it's not a wild horse anymore. Your mind right now is just a wild horse running in all different types of directions. It's not tamed. But first thing is, it needs to be wild first. It needs to get out. You need to let your mind wander and see, okay, that's a wandering mind. That's one of my wandering thoughts. That's my wandering dialogue. Let me pull it back and be able to learn when I have control of it. It's that simple. You don't know you have control of something until you let it wander. So that's the second part. Learn how to control it. Third part is, you have to think positive. You have to think positive, and you have to be present. Now, this is the part that, like I said, you have to see where your mind is going. But the way you want to control it, and the way you want to make sure it helps you, whether it's in business, in finance, in business credit, wherever you're trying, even family, relationships, all that stuff, you have to think positive, and you have to be present. Now, this is why that's important. If you're only thinking about the good things for the future and also the present, that's where your action will lead you to. So understand that. So think positive and be present. Being present lets you control the mind, but then also lets you think positively about a situation that you're in. Even if it's in a crappy situation, even if it's in a bad situation, you need to be present in that bad situation, but figure out what the positive is out of that. That's the only way you're going to learn how to improve that and master the inner dialogue. So if let's say, you know, you're in any situation, let's say you have some bad credit and you can't understand how you got there and all that stuff, and you know, you have debt for days, and you have, you know, maxed out your credit cards, your loans are past due, all that stuff. Yes, you're in a bad, difficult situation, but the way the way you can change that to a positive for your dialogue is say, you know what, this is a lesson for me to learn finances. This is the time for me to learn about finances because my finances are not in great shape. That's exactly what happened for me. Is I went down in a deep hole. I understood that I was in a deep hole, and I said, you know what? I need to get myself out of this. And that's what I did. I got myself out of it, and I started thriving. And I started teaching other people how to do that. I started showing people how to do the stuff I was doing, and it helped them. So that's what helped me, because in terms of improving my finances and all those things, it took time to be in a wandering zone where I had bad credit, didn't have a house, didn't have houses, didn't have any kind of business at all, didn't have a business acumen. I didn't read, I didn't do any of these things. But the whole thing is when I realized that I got in that hole, I learned, I saw the positive. I said, listen, this could help me. This could help me learn about finances. And it did. It helped me learn about finances. And then I started a show with Invest in Your Future. I started doing seminars. I started doing podcasts. I started doing YouTube, Facebook. It gave me platform. It gave me material. It helped me so much because I saw the positive in it. That's how I mastered my inner dialogue. I always said, find a way to think of the positive in whatever situation I'm in. So that's the third part, is think positive and be present. That's the thing. And also think positive about your future. You know, that's why we call the show Invest in Your Future, because we always want to think investing, meaning add some value to it. So add some value to your future by always thinking positive and mastering that inner dialogue. And the last part is don't fight yourself. Don't have inner conflict with your mind. You cannot have inner conflict with your mind. So if it's a decision, you have to think, is it positive or is it negative? It's that simple. If it's positive, go towards it. If it's negative, don't go towards it. Don't have I read a book that said, it calls it inner civil war. A lot of people are fighting themselves inside their mind. And what happens with that is a lot of people end up making no decisions at all. So indecision is still a decision, but it doesn't help you at all. It doesn't help you invest in your future. So understand that inner civil war or fighting yourself is never good for your inner dialogue, never good for your future, never good for anything. So don't fight yourself. Don't fight yourself. Never, ever fight yourself. Give yourself some time to think, master these thoughts, like I said, you know, follow these steps, and they'll help you become a master of your inner dialogue. And once you master that, nothing can hurt you. Nothing can really push you, because you control on how you act, and your actions will lead you towards where you want to go. But you have to be thinking positive all the time. You have to be thinking about present and being present about where your mind is going, and thinking about the future all the time on how it could be positive. So guys, until next time, I appreciate you guys. If you have questions or comments, please ask them wherever you listen to this. If you can give us a thumbs up, if you can give us a like, if you can send this to friends, let us know. If they need seats to the upcoming Financial Power Hour, let us know. We can get them seats. I think we only have 15 seats left. So sign up for those things. It's going to be next week, December 12th. Don't forget to let people know about what's going on in terms of the show. And if you have other questions or comments, leave them there for us. We're always here to help. Guys, until next time, I'll see you at the top.